Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to part one of a two-part interview with the D's Richard Wilk. As you saw in the previous set of photos, Richard was one of the main stars in the 2005 Louis Theroux documentary Gambling in Las Vegas, and from my own experience with my own channel and sort of discussing Vegas with various people online, I do think that documentary is seen by many as the godfather of Las Vegas documentaries. We've had an awful lot of them in the UK. Eamon and Ruth recently, which wasn't so good. Piers Morgan, which was one of the better ones. Trevor McDonald, there's all sorts of ones. Bruce Forsyth, but certainly Louis, I think, stands head and shoulders above any of those, and is watched repeatedly, even today, especially by people just before they're about to hit Sin City. So I was very keen to speak with Richard, delighted that he actually agreed, and not only that, he was very generous with his time and allowed over an hour just to chat all things Vegas and all things Louis Theroux. So I'm splitting this into two halves. Just for a bit of background in terms of how this came to be, one of my viewers, Kim Ozels, hi Kim, he attended a Q&A with Louis Theroux in Australia, where Louis was touring to promote his recent book, Got to Get Through This. And the members of the audience were asked to submit questions. Louis would then pick certain questions to answer, and Kim's question was picked. This is the question, and this is Louis' response.
Hi, Kim.
Hi. Thanks for choosing my question. One of your most popular documentaries is the Gambling in Las Vegas, and the Vegas vlogging community has like a cult following with that particular episode. And they're dying for a revisit with Martha Pogman, Alan the High Roller, and we're just wondering, are we going to see any revisit anytime soon?
A revisit with the gambling episode. And Martha Pogman was a dentist who happily admitted, I mean, she was an elderly lady, probably in her late 70s or 80s. She happily admitted that she gambled. Can you remember the number? 4 million?
4 million, yeah.
$4 million away, with a big smile on her face. Extraordinary. And then we meet her son, and I said, like, so you're not at all worried that the family endowment is being frittered on slot machines? And he's like, oh no, I don't mind. And Alan, who over the course of a weekend, I think he gambled about 200,000 or more, and he was a Canadian mattress heir. The strange thing about Alan was, about 5 or so years afterwards, and you might have seen this, on the internet they began circulating an Uber receipt that someone had got on their Uber app, and it said, your driver today was Alan. And there was a picture of Alan there. And I thought that was extraordinary. The idea, I mean, what I naturally assumed was that he had gambled away his entire fortune and was now an Uber driver. But then I followed up on that, and I tried to get in touch with him, and I don't even think that's true. I think he's still doing his mattress business or in the mattress industry. As to the idea of a follow-up, I don't know. I liked it better when he was an Uber driver. You know what I mean, obviously, like, I don't want him to have lost his fortune, but from the purpose of a narrative arc, that is a more tantalising prospect. Alan, what happened? You know, that kind, you can work with that. So don't hold your breath, but thank you for the great question.
Thank you, Kim.
So as you can see, Louis answered it to the best of his ability. I then tweeted that video. Richard saw it. I was trying to sort of get in contact with Louis to sort of cajole him into doing a follow-up documentary to the original one. Richard got involved as well, and I think they're now talking. I asked Richard later in the interview the status of ongoing talks regarding a follow-up documentary. But let's start at the beginning. Before we get into the Louis Theroux stuff, let's start at the beginning with Richard. I wanted to know a bit of background. How did he get to where he is today? What lured him into the casino business in the first place? Enjoy the interview, folks.
So I always say it kind of started when I was 8 years old. I came to Vegas for the first time with my father, who was a junket player. A junket player meant that he had a credit line up to $10,000, and he would come every other month from Toronto, from Canada, because I'm Canadian, and he would be in for a couple of days, get everything paid for, and he just had to gamble. Didn't matter if he won or lost, he just had to gamble up to his credit line. So when we came in, I was able to come in with them a couple times a year, and that was the first time I ever did. But it was special because VIP players back then got treated very well, and I could go down to the coffee shop and for breakfast when before even my parents, or I could sign his name and sign my name to the check of my silver dollar pancakes, and you didn't have to worry about anything. And kind of a funny thing that happened was I was walking out one time, and I was walking up 3 flights of stairs, and this old man said, "Come here, kid, help me up the stairs." So I helped him up, and later on I told my dad I did that. He says, "What old man?" I said, "That guy on the poster," and it happened to be George Burns. So it's kind of interesting that later on in life I'm living in Las Vegas taking care of celebrities and athletes, and maybe that was something that would predict my future right there, and I didn't even know about it.
Yeah,
so.
Casinos and celebrities at 8 years old.
Very interesting.
Your future was laid out.
Yeah, it looks like that. And then later on, as the years went on, and I think it was around 19, 20 years old, my dad wanted to create a junket business. So back then I was still finishing college, getting my degree there, and at the same time trying to figure out which way I wanted to go. And just as I finished college, we opened up a junket business for about a year. And Harrah's out of Atlantic City gave us their list of people from Toronto and Ontario in that area. And what we did twice a month, we took down a plane full of people. So it would be either a day trip, which would be like 50 people, or we took down 120 people for a 2-day trip.
Yep.
And they would pay to go down, or unless they played enough, they would be comped. And we did that for a year.
Nice.
And that gave me a lot more experience. We had the charity casinos at the time happening in Toronto, and I helped out with consulting with that and helped train some of the people how to deal, because I was the guy that knew a lot about the casino business because of my father being a gambler.
Yeah.
And then I just read a lot of books, so I kind of faked it,
So you're not a gambler then?
I'm not a gambler.
Okay,
Back then, sure, if I went away to the Bahamas with my buddies and
Yeah.
spring break, we'd gamble a little bit,
Yeah.
sure. But that's it. I mean, you're around everybody all the time, so you see what happens. From there, fast forward with all that knowledge that I learned and the biggest stuff in Atlantic City, flying to Atlantic City once a month, twice a month, taught me a lot. And from there in '95, I married a Jersey girl that I met in Cancun, believe it or not.
Right.
Crazy. 8 months later, when we're back, I got married to this Jersey girl, and I decided to make the move. I was in high-level security back in Toronto. My background's counterterrorism and intelligence. And,
Okay.
I grew up in the martial arts, so I knew how to fight, and so I had a security team for 6 years with a couple other guys, and we did all the high-profile people, whether it be celebrities, band members, big bands, groups, singers, big businessmen. So from there, we built up a great reputation. And we did everybody that came into town, or our company would have the first dibs on who came into town. And from there, 1995, a guy named Kevin Malott out of Erase Enterprises in Carrollton, Texas, came out and hired the guard group that we were in, and hired the executive protection team, which was my team, to protect Bill Gates and five of his top CEOs and presidents and everything in Toronto.
Yeah.
For one of his global summits.
Yeah.
So we did that. My team got rewarded that without even Bill Gates knowing that we were security, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then for the next 4 to 5 years, once a year I would go and do that with Kevin, with a team of whether they be special operations guys or SWAT guys that were off for the week or something. We always had a team of guys that would go and do that for Microsoft. And it was very interesting and some really good stories with that. But that also helped me get into the United States in a way that I had that reputation. So sure enough, I got my visa from getting married. I wasn't even going to make the move. She didn't want to make the move to Canada, so I had to make the move. So from there, I started working, and the first things I did was my first job in the United States was protecting the Vice President, President of the United States.
Seriously?
Bill Clinton and Al Gore. Back then in '95, he was the Presidential Counsel for Travel and Tourism.
Wow.
And it was pretty incredible. We were basically on that inner circle of the presidential visit to this function, and then the next day the vice presidential visit. So it's pretty crazy. We did a few politicians during that time, Secretary of Commerce Ron Brown, Undersecretary of Commerce Greg Farmer. So we were there. Here I am, a permanent, temporary resident of the United States. I'm Canadian, and I'm in Washington protecting some of the biggest politicians,
Wow,
which was pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
And then I did that for about 6 months in Washington, driving back and forth from New Jersey. And then I got a job in Atlantic City, and I worked in Atlantic City for about a year. And it was always cutthroat there.
Right.
People always wanted to stab you in the back or get ahead of you wherever you could, or get you on something, because there's a lot of jealousy in the business.
Yeah, sure.
From there, I answered. I worked for Sands, and then I went over to Harris and worked there. But it was about a year, and then Harris ended up letting the whole department, disbanded the whole department, and we all got let go at different times. And we were making a lot of money at that time because the way they set up that. And then I said to my wife at the time, there's a little ad, and it was like this big, Matt. I mean, it was crazy. 3 lines, and it said, looking for 2 executive hosts for Las Vegas Casino.
Wow.
And I went to her, I said, you want to move to Vegas? She goes, wow, I never thought about it, but okay. I said, because if I do this, I'm going to get this job.
Right.
And from there, nobody really knows this story. It's in my book, but it's pretty interesting. I submitted my resume, and a couple weeks went by. I'm like, how come I didn't hear anything? So I turn around and I call. I figure out the number. I find out who's hiring. I call. They put me through to the girl that happens to be the one with the resumes. I said, listen, I don't know if you guys are meeting. Oh yeah, they're coming out in 2 days to meet with 19 people. I said, can you check to see if I'm one of those people, or even if you got my resume? Because I don't know where it is.
Right.
I never got called. She goes, no, it's not here. I said, listen, I'm qualified for this. I'd hate for them to miss out on possibly interviewing me, and I'd hate to miss out on the opportunity. She goes, send me your resume right now, and I'll show it to the director. So I did it, faxed it to her. She calls me back. She said, well, I just showed him, and he put it in the pile to see people, so that's 20 people he's seeing.
Fantastic. Which
was awesome. They came. It ended up being the owners of Circa Circus, which became Mandalay Bay Corporation. The owner's son and the director of marketing were the ones coming out to interview 2 people.
Right.
Out of 250 applications, they were interviewing 20 people.
Wow.
And I got in at the last minute.
Fantastic.
Thanks to this girl, Jamie.
Yeah, if that hadn't happened, who knows?
My whole everything that I've done in Vegas, who knows what would have happened. So that was interesting. They came, they met me. We were shooting the shit for 2 hours in a suite in Caesar's Palace. I find out three weeks later after that, the owner's son, Bill Ensign, who I adore, called me and said, how would you like to come to Vegas and work for us? We'll pay you $60,000 as a salary, give you a 3-year contract and an automatic $20,000 bonus. I said, wow, that's kind of hard to turn down. I said, they said, well, you're the only one we hired.
Interesting.
They paid my moving expenses to come out.
Yeah.
And I heard he got in trouble by all the top guys that were in the corporation, some of the officers of the company, because they've never paid anybody's moving expenses before.
Yeah.
So I had a lot to live up to.
Yeah, totally.
And I went out for Christmas of 1996. I was in Vegas.
Yeah.
I believe December 27th I started working, and I was working a New Year's Eve party, and every one of the big executives and officers came up to me and said, "Wow, you better do well. You better do well, or else it's their heads," because they to go to New Jersey and only hire one person.
Yeah.
6 months. Fast forward to 6 months later, I got called up to the office. Bill Ensign and Bill Cleek, who was the director. Bill Ensign's the son. He says, "You effing made us look amazing." And it was just, I was sweating, I was going crazy. I'm thinking, oh geez, what'd I do? I screw up. And I kept my cool, and I said, "See, I told you I wouldn't let you down."
There you go.
Meanwhile, I was scared shitless.
So how easy is it then to start in a brand new city where you don't know anybody, doing what you do and make that kind of impact? How hard is that?
I said to myself, and I'll tell everybody this, best advice I can say: network everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Okay, carry a business card everywhere you go and have your cell number on there. Listen, if you're a woman and you're scared guys are going to call, you can block them. You can block anybody who's harassing you. But your cell number gives you the convenience to those people that are trying to get a hold of you. That's what you want.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me successful.
Yeah.
Is that you can get a hold of me, you can text me, you can call me. Even back then it wasn't as big as it is now. You know, so I want to be at the convenience of my customers. But when I came out here, I took advantage of an opportunity that I knew was going to enrich my life. And I do that to this day. I live by that. So when it comes down to it, that was the biggest moment of my life, making that big move. So I said, I'm going to come to Vegas and make a name for myself and keep my integrity along the way. And that's what I did. Did I piss off some people? Yeah, I was the youngest casino host in Las Vegas as an executive host at 27 years old. So everybody was 40 and older, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So when they were pissed that I was this young guy coming in, you know, and disrupting everything. But I was there I'm coming in an hour early and I'm staying 2 hours later.
Yeah, well,
just to make a name for myself.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, that was the way I handled it. And that's basically my casino business in the very beginning of how I got into it.
So did you go from Mandalay Bay Enterprises through to Hilton, then the D, or stops along the way?
So I worked for Monte Carlo.
Okay.
The Monte Carlo Casino Hotel, which was owned by Mandalay Bay Corporation.
Yeah.
Mandalay Bay opened within that year before I got out here. And then from there, I went to Hard Rock. I was at Hard Rock for 3 years. From there, see what happens with me is I would go someplace and everybody would want my big players.
Yeah.
Well, you have to pay me to do that. You have to give me a contract to do that. But then throughout your contract or near the end of your contract, different presidents come in, different CEOs, they think, we don't want to pay this or we don't want to do that. Well, you don't get my customers then. So at a dinner one time, sitting with one of my $1 million players who owned a gentleman's club in town, we were sitting at the place, so if you all watch Casino, where Joe Pesci acts out of, it's called Piero's. Very famous Italian restaurant here for years. All the big shots always have gone there. Well, I was sitting there, and to my back was the Richardson family. So Mandalay Bay Corporation was owned by Richardson family and Ensign family. The Ensigns gave me my start.
Yeah.
I had a friendship with the Richardson family and Billy Richardson Jr., who was one of the sons as well.
Right.
And I turned to him and I said, Billy, I might want to come back to the family and work. He says, well, talk to Dad. And I said, well, okay, sounds good. He says, Dad will love to have you back. It's okay. 2 years later, after that, I'm getting a call. Why the hell haven't you called my father? I said, listen, I was thinking about coming back because I knew what was happening at the Hard Rock. So I wanted to have backup. And sure enough, I said, okay, I'll call your dad right now. And I went in that afternoon, talked to him, and sure enough, I went over there and got a contract with them for 3 years. But then after a year, they allowed me to go and work downtown at the Golden Nugget with Tim and Tom, who bought it. The two young guys that bought the Golden Nugget.
You weren't in that, there's a reality show.
Yeah, the casino with Mark Burnett.
I absolutely loved that show.
So it was part of...
Matt Dusk.
But you don't remember me in it.
Yeah, I actually don't. Weird.
Must not have made an impression.
Yeah.
Well, I came in the last 5 episodes.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
And they did my hiring. They wanted to do my hiring on camera.
Yeah.
And then the young guy, Tommy, who was on there, he was like a protege to me. I was supposed to teach him how to be a host.
Right.
And some of the big players that came in, I taught them through that. Right. So it was interesting. It was a lot of fun. And then from there, I went to the Las Vegas Hilton, where you saw me with Louis.
You were in that as well?
I definitely was in that one. I think a lot of people know I was in that one. You definitely know me from that one.
Yeah, I do.
But what was interesting was during that time, I was getting married. I was getting remarried. Once I moved out here, after 2 years of being out here, I got a divorce. I was things happened. I got a divorce, and she moved back to Jersey, and I said, that's it, I'm done. I'm just going to focus on a career. Met somebody that became my best friend, and we were like best friends doing everything, and I wanted to have a baby, and I had a daughter with her, and 6 months, when my daughter was 6 months old, we got married at the Hilton.
Right.
And Louis was there to film it all.
Seriously?
And they were
Wow.
supposed to put that in the show. They wanted to add that to the show because I had a lot of celebrities. I had almost $4 million worth of business at my wedding.
Right.
And it was pretty interesting. It was something they wanted to show. Afterwards, they decided, and I'm pretty sure it was Louis, that let's just do this. And it ended up being a 25-minute produced wedding video for me.
Oh, wow.
As a gift.
Seriously, that is so
Louis,
cool.
Louis and his production team were really cool about that. Stuart, who was his producer at the time, they were awesome. They gave it to us every time we play it. My wife cries about it because it was something that not everybody had. You didn't capture
Your
what
own
they
private
captured.
Louis Theroux documentary of your own wedding.
I had
How cool
Bill.
is that?
Listen, I had Bill Goldberg, who is the WWE icon and legend, in my wedding party.
Yeah.
He just had a baby. His wife just had a baby 2 months prior to that, and they showed up. So when I'm dancing with my wife, I grab my daughter, who's 6 months old, and we're dancing together, and they're all going like this, and Goldberg comes in and kisses her forehead. I mean, that was stuff we never had.
Yeah, yeah.
Louis and them had it,
Yeah.
and so it captured it. We did it all in Alan's suite because Alan was also in my wedding party, so it was pretty.
I was going to ask
interesting.
you that actually. Was he there?
He was there. He was in my wedding party. We used his 15,000 square foot suite, and then from there I went back to the Hard Rock. I got asked to come back there from the CEO to help rebrand and help bring back that buzz. And then from there I went into. I was there 4 years, and I went into the nightclub business
Okay.
for about a year and a half.
And this is when, obviously when the clubs was just starting to come through.
No,
in
clubs
Vegas.
were already going. It was just Mr. Richardson had invested in a couple clubs.
Right.
One at Paris called Chateau, and another one Gallery at Planet Hollywood. He wanted me to kind of come in. I went in as vice president and kind of oversaw his investment. After 8 months of that, the owner of Tropicana, Alex Jimenesian, and his son Armin came by, and they sent their food and beverage guy to bring me over and talk to me.
Right.
So I went over there. We had Nikki Beach at the time, and they were thinking about getting moving in a different direction than them, and had me come over and rebrand it. I rebranded it, and they said we want to rebrand it so we can sell it. I rebranded it for 6 months, and sure enough, they sold it.
Right.
I guess I did a good job.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I stayed on there for a little while to help his son, who ran the casino hosts and everything, to help him out a little bit. Went over after that to Hooters for about 3 months before we all got fired.
Okay.
Our buddy was supposed to buy the place, so we we're going to create that into like a miniature Hard Rock kind of middle class place.
Yeah.
We had the perfect staff. It was Hooter
totally.
girls, you know. So, but he ended up getting something happened with the deal. It fell through, so 5 of us ended up being let go because he wasn't going to own it anymore. During that time, I had met Derek Stevens and Dave Tuttle, who was his COO. David worked with me at the Golden Nugget as a casino manager. I was senior director over there at the time, so we got to know each other for a year and a half. He said, "You should come talk to Derek." So I shook hands with the CEO of Hooters just yesterday, so you got to give me time. And once that closed, once we were let go, they came to me and asked me to come down. Came down, talked to them.
And what year would that have been when you?
Wow, that was January 2013.
Okay.
And I didn't want to be back in downtown anymore. You know, I was tired of it when I worked down here. Just different. It's a whole different animal. But I came down. I was getting older, and I thought, you know what, it's less stress down here. Plus, I get to work for this owner that's later on find out that's just absolutely incredible. Takes care of his employees, takes care of people around him. Sits in our barn. You met him the other night.
Yeah.
He sits at the bar and with his
lovely
wife
guy.
and shakes people's hands.
Yeah.
Well, not right now, but
it's normally
gives pounds and elbows.
Yeah,
but,
so fist
but
pumping.
if that's the only place you can do is come to the D in Las Vegas and see an owner of a casino sitting at the bar, that's something. You can't go to any other casino and see an owner
Absolutely no way.
anywhere.
No.
So that tells you something about him right there.
It does.
So to work for this guy, I've worked for him for 7 years now.
Yeah.
I've never worked anywhere for 7 years.
Yeah. I was going to say that
long.
sounds like your longest.
Yeah, 4 years was
Yeah.
my longest,
Yeah.
and I used to joke around. You're the longest I've ever worked for. Not 6 years, now it's 7 years.
Yeah.
But so, and then I ended up with the deed. We hit the Golden Gate. We have then he opened up the downtown Las Vegas Event Center that holds 15,000 people outside. We've gone through obstacles there, and it's become successful with some of the biggest bands there, some of the biggest EDM events.
Yeah.
You know, so working for him, I was able to challenge myself and was able to help create that buzz. you know, what was unique about coming to work for him, he says, if your gamblers want to come in and see you, that's fine. But you don't market to them. You don't have to market to them. I want you to help create the brand.
Yeah.
Create that buzz. And I always added buzz marketing to my title. So I'm director of business development at Buzz Marketing.
Okay, right.
Buzz marketing is that buzz that you hear about.
Yeah.
Right? So if I have a celebrity come in and all of a sudden the next day you hear about them being at the D, their fans are all going to start coming down here.
Absolutely.
Thinking that they might see them at one point in time, and they may.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how the Hard Rock and the Palms, they all built their pedigrees of people coming in, of high profile people coming in. And that's what he wanted me to do in here, was help create that buzz.
And how difficult is it to drag high rollers from the Strip to come downtown? Is it a challenge, or?
No, you know, people will say, oh, it's a challenge, it's old Vegas. It's not old Vegas. You walked out there.
Yeah.
You have a Viva Vision screen out there
yeah.
that's what is it, a 4D or 5D? I don't even know anymore. All these optics.
4K.
4K. It's gorgeous. Is that old?
No.
No. Anybody on the street look old?
No, it's...
You got.
But it's been transformed, well, probably since around about 2013. If you go back to 2013 to now, the things that have happened with everything.
I think with Tony Shea from Zappos being down here, Derek Steven, Tillman Fertitta from the Golden Nugget, they're big names.
Yeah.
They came in and did big things down here, and they transformed it. It's not old Vegas anymore. It's actually out of 44 million people that come to Vegas, 22 million now come to downtown.
Seriously? That's an interesting
That's the
stat.
real number. You can check that stat anywhere.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you can't be old Vegas if you're doing that. People call it old Vegas, but you come down here. Listen, you've been down here. You see the action.
Yeah.
You see the bands playing. You see people having a good time.
Absolutely.
Our dancing dealers will high five you when you get a blackjack.
Yeah.
Good luck doing that at the Strip.
Yeah, no. Absolutely.
You know, so it's not as stuffy.
Yeah.
The Strip has the famous Las Vegas Strip. It's got the famous casinos and hotels. They're definitely a destination spot. We're a fun, sexy, cool spot. That's a destination to visit and have fun in.
Yeah.
You know, so we both play a part. The Strip and downtown. It's all of Vegas. It's not downtown, but Las Vegas. It's all of Vegas, and the experiences are different everywhere you go. We're just another cool experience.
Yeah. And in terms of bankroll, what sort of level would a player need to rock up with for you to take notice of them?
So, like I said, I don't really do that too much anymore, but there are guys that will come referred from my players, or my players, I might come in and they might be with some guys that they want to get a player's card, and I'll still take care of them. Down here, it's like, if you have a $5,000 bankroll or more, sure, I'll help. I don't care. If you're cool and you're fun and you only got $2,500, I don't care. I'll take care of you still.
Yeah.
But that's the fun part about it.
Yeah.
And down here, it's a little different experience. You know, we always used to joke around that we would steal people from other casinos in a way that were $25,000 guys because they couldn't get comped at certain casinos. I won't name those casinos, but being a $25,000 guy and you can't get your room comped,
That's crazy.
I'd steal them all day long from there and bring them to the Hard Rock, or bring them to wherever I was working.
Yeah.
You come down here with a 25, you're king.
Yeah.
You're a small fish in a big pond on the Strip.
Well, to be honest, I've even found that doing group pools and what have you at Cosmo, I couldn't even get a free room. And down here at the
you get a free room all week, right?
Completely. So it's
so you're a big fish.
even at my level. So
you're a big fish in a little pond down here,
yeah.
and that's the difference.
Yeah.
So having a smaller bankroll down here goes a long way,
Yeah.
and that's why downtown and you can include all the fun. Listen, you can take an Uber, a Lyft,
totally.
taxi to the Strip,
Yeah, $14.
right, and then come back down here and still have fun. You can go still visit everything, but you're going to stay cheaper down here.
Yeah.
You're going to get comped better down here. You're going to have a better time only because it's not as stuffy.
Yeah.
And you can relax and be comfortable.
And talking to comps, I get a lot of questions about how they are calculated in terms of how do you work out how much has been played versus what they're getting back at the end.
So everybody's always looking to see what this equation is.
Yeah.
It's really, there's a lot of variables put in there, but the easiest way to say it is that it's your average bet multiplied by the time that you play with the odds of that table worked into that gives you a theoretical number.
Right.
That theoretical number is we as executive hosts or casino hosts or player development guys comp off of.
Right.
So you can comp up to 30% on that number, to 40% some places, on a table player, on a slot player, sometimes 20%, maybe 25% off of that number.
Right. Okay.
So the best way to look at it, if I bet $100 bet and I play 4 hours a day, my theoretical could be anywhere from 232 to 286 is the theoretical. Now pitcher comping 30% off of that, 40% off of that. That's how that works.
Right, okay.
Okay, so just gives you an idea. Now if you're a $50 player, then you got to play 8 hours a day to get that theoretical.
Yeah.
But because it's a cheaper hotel rate down here, we can comp you.
Yes, yeah, of course.
You're not going to get that at a strip that the hotel rate's 150.
Sure.
You know, if I'm going to comp you off of 250, let's just say 250, right? It's $75 at 30%, right? $75 could be your room rate. Could be $60, and you still have a little left over for food. You see what I mean?
No, totally get it.
So it goes a long way. So that's an easy way to explain it.
Yeah.
Now, every table's different because it's odds. Blackjack has the best odds for the customer to try to beat the house. Roulette, I know a lot of people in UK love their roulette. They're single zero.
Single zero, yeah.
and listen, I love roulette players all day long. If you're a roulette player, come see me. I'll comp you all the time. But roulette, their theoretical becomes higher because the odds of us beating a roulette player are greater.
Right.
It's less on you, more for us, right? So you're going to get a lot more in comps if you're a roulette player.
No,
So
that makes sense.
It just depends on the game you go to.
Yeah.
You know, craps, you may have a huge average bet because they allow you to count everything on the table. That means your theoretical is going to be a lot lower because they're counting everything.
Sure.
And that's and so many decisions an hour, things like that. How many times the dice roll? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But if you keep that kind of equation, you can gauge.
So fundamentally, if you came for say 3 days, okay, and you bet your normal bankroll for 2 days, and on the third day, maybe because you lost it all or something, you bet a minimal amount, that would then affect your comps.
But it all adds up. But it all adds up, though.
You wouldn't look at that third day and say, well, maybe
You want that third day because you want it to add to your first and second.
Okay.
So all it's doing, when you come in for 3 days, you're building that theoretical number
Right,
up.
okay.
Everything you do, you build it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you play $25. If they're rating you, it might not build up as fast, but it's building up.
Okay.
But the other thing is, too, is that theoretical, let's say you brought $5,000. I'm going to throw a wrench in this, okay? You bring $5,000, and after 3 hours, you blow it all. In the next 2 days, I have nothing to gamble with, right? I can take into consideration that $5,000 and comp you 10% of that loss because your theoretical might not be anything.
Yeah.
You could have $1,000 theoretical. You could have 1,000 theoretical, and if I comp you that, right, 30% of that's $300, right?
Yeah.
That's all I can do.
Yeah.
But for 5,000, you lost 5,000. I can do 10% of that. Now you got 500. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You could blow $10,000 in 3 days. Now I can comp you up to so much. You know what I mean? So, sorry, it's not the same. Sorry, I mixed you guys up. It's you can go 10% of loss.
10% loss.
Where you're going 30% to 40% of theoretical.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to make that clear.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we don't screw that up. But a lot of people come in and they lose quickly.
Yeah, of course. Well, they're excited.
Theoretical goes out the window.
Yeah,
then,
completely.
You know? So you gotta compensate for that loss.
Yeah. In terms of sort of gaming in general, since you started in the industry in Vegas, maybe, what's the biggest changes you've seen?
Well, the biggest changes in gambling is basically the places. You have different places that, like, look at Cosmo opened up. You know, you have different places that have created more of a nightlife to their entertainment now. Yeah. So now what you do, you have people that come in and strictly gamble. You have people that come in and gamble and also add an entertainment value in the way of nightlife and day life by the pool. And then you have people that come in and don't gamble at all, but they'll spend $5,000 at a cabana by the pool, and then another $10,000 inside in a nightclub.
Yeah.
And they don't gamble at all.
Yeah.
But the guys that do gamble will get that comped and so on.
Yeah.
So the difference I think I've seen since being in Vegas for almost 25 years is the fact that you have the entertainment side of things took another big, created an addition to what you can do in Vegas. And that nightlife and daylife and nightlife factors play a big part. You see nightclubs now making $110 million in a year. You know, that's a big deal. That's a big number for a business to make. So some of those people are gamblers. Some of them are just here for the fun of it. And that I've seen increase throughout the years. You know, now I think it's doing a reset, and some of it's coming down. Only a few of those places are surviving. But before, you had a good 10 different places in the way of nightlife. You had a bunch of big pools. You know, at Hard Rock, we had rehab on a Sunday. You know, pool was still open Friday, Saturdays for different events, that DJs and stuff. But Sunday was rehab. You'd put 5,000 people up by that pool. That was the start of it all. You know, and you brought in the biggest stars. I had Lady Gaga there for the first time.
Amazing.
I had no idea who she was, and she was big in the UK, big in Canada, not big in the US yet.
Oh, she's not big in the UK.
She wasn't.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't in. It was, I believe, it was 2008, and you can check TMZ because the pictures are still on there. I had Akon performing for me there, and he says, I have an artist that's going to be huge, that's doing a private event in Vegas tonight, but you can get her first here if you want. She'll do a couple songs, and I would appreciate the exposure. She came out and did Poker Face and did her 3 top songs, and jumped into the crowd. And because she wanted to do what Akon did, it was awesome. Lady Gaga was amazing.
No, she is.
She was incredible, and the talent she has.
And now she's here on a residency.
But to know, and to know that I first had her perform in Las Vegas for the first time is kind of pretty cool. And I took a picture with me, her, and Akon. And to know that was as big as she's gotten, and to know back then, creating that first, is just something I love doing.
No, completely.
You know, and that just gives you a little history there. But that was at the biggest pool party, and that place made millions. And that was a pool.
Yes. Yeah. So it's diversifying what Vegas offers fundamentally, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I hope you enjoyed part 1 of Richard's interview. I'll be back with you for part 2, where we delve deeper into the Louis Theroux documentary. Stay tuned, and I'll speak to you soon.